I'm a big fan of thinking differently. And it sometimes lands me in trouble, but it's also where most of our business here comes from. And while there are similarities, I'm not talking about an Apple-style Think Different campaign, at least not usually. So let's talk about Google Cloud Editorial. Now, you may have done a double take on that phrase, and if you did, you're not alone. The idea of Google Cloud Editorial doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Journalists would agree, technocrats would agree, most people would agree, and while drunken fruit flies may make more business sense than would seem, Google Cloud Editorial is kind of a troubling idea. Nevertheless, Google Cloud Editorial is here, or it's about to be, and it's being headed up by a respected editor poached from the New York Times. Google isn't saying what it means yet, but I'm sure we'll see soon enough, and I'm sure it'll have something to do with keeping you in the Google stable. The question will be whether that makes Google any less trustworthy. Stop laughing. I know that the idea of Google's trustworthiness is already pretty funny, but there is some sorting out to be done, and yes, burying the Dallas Cowboys logo behind Google's has everything to do with thinking differently. So let's stipulate a couple of things. First, Google is a monopoly, or at least they act like one way too often. Second, Google's position in the advertising and search fields creates conflicts that makes believing them difficult. Lots of interesting stuff flows from that, like the idea of accepting Google-forced standards. Nevertheless, while I enjoy discussing the academic, we create business change here by dealing in the practical. So let's get back to the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, the Dallas Cowboys were known to think different by never drafting players for the positions they wished to fill. It didn't matter if you played quarterback in college and they needed one. The Cowboys drafted the best athlete available when it was their turn to pick, and then they figured out how to use those draftees. Now, of course, it's not really that simple. While all NFL caliber players are great athletes, yeah, even those huge interior linemen, they aren't and can't all be shaped the same way. So the reality is that you start by making a rule and then you figure out when to break it. So let's get back to Google Cloud Editorial. Quentin Hardy will be the first leader of the Google Cloud Editorial team, and for now we can assume that means his work will impact both G Suite and the Google Cloud platform, that's hosting. In the real world, that likely means Google is going to roll out a tool similar to Medium, and Medium is a failing tool, and it's owned by Twitter, which, viewed according to most business metrics, is failing as well. But the idea of getting people to use your tools more and more and more is a sound one. Mr. Hardy's in for some fun. So wait, does that mean that Google Cloud Editorial won't actually produce editorial content in-house? Google Cloud Editorial will just mean that Google wants all of us to blog for them? Well, yeah, probably. Google has the resources to create an editorial team, but they don't need to. Staying with the Think Different theme, living in a world where journalism has become about clicks as much as about the quality of content, and realizing that Google already owns the important elements of search engine optimization, there's no need for Google Cloud Editorial. It is a, hey, quick, look over here, play. Now listen, just as we are not going to talk about Google and the monopoly issue today, let's not judge the idea of journalism having shifted to something not at all journalism-like. It is what it is. The real subject today has nothing to do with Google's trustworthiness, the Dallas Cowboys, or anything outside your control. The issue that Google Cloud Editorial needs to bring up for you is what tools are you using and why? Oh, Bing. No, not Bing, the search engine. That was a bell ringing. You need to keep an eye on these tools, or we'll do it for you, and you need to understand the bigger picture. You might even consider drafting a 300-pound interior lineman. I'm the Answer Guy, and I'll be back.